Welcome back, creatures of the night, to the next installment of our watch along of the greatest 4-year story ever told at WrestleMania. As we continue now with WrestleMania 26, the sequel to WrestleMania 25, the rematch that everybody was talking about, the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels Part 2, as Shawn Michaels puts his career on the line to try and defeat the streak at WrestleMania 26 in Phoenix, Arizona in 2010. My God, which is 11 years ago this past year. And
about to be 12 years ago, man.
My God, it's going to be about 12. I can't believe this. It's going to be 12 years. I know exactly where I was watching this. So let's start off with that. What's your memories of this WrestleMania? Watching it live, watching it for the first time and all that before we get started on the match.
I'm so glad you started with that question. First of all, thanks for my introduction. You got Eamon over here, by the way.
Oh, of course. Yes, of course.
So, I'm just messing with you, man. So I got a funny little short story for that. So back in those days, and we fucking sound like grandparents now saying, "Oh, back in my day, Shunny." But it's just like seriously, like back in those days, like you couldn't, like today, if you wanted to order a pay-per-view, you would just whip out your phone, go on DirecTV's app, and you could you wouldn't have to call anybody. It would just be a couple buttons you press and you're done. Bada bing, bada boom. And so what's so funny is that back then, you had to call DirecTV's phone number and you had to order it through like one of those automated voice machines. Now, the funny thing is, that was my first time. That was my whole family's really first time ordering a pay-per-view. You got to understand, as we talked about in the last interview we did, I grew up with all women in my family, so just my mom and my 4 sisters, and so I didn't have a father figure watching sports, watching fights, what have you. So there was no need to even know how to order a pay-per-view. And so WrestleMania 26 was my first time seeing WrestleMania live on a pay-per-view, besides 24 being on my birthday and my dad taking me to that sports bar. As we established in that interview as well, I didn't watch WrestleMania 25 live. I watched it later on YouTube. But 26 was the first one I watched live at home on paper. And so I remember the day of, my mom did it because I was about to be 14, so I was 13. I didn't really know how to do the whole rigmarole of like putting in because like you'd have to put in the card information like on the phone, like that whole thing. It feels like prehistoric shit now compared to what we can do with our phones and everything. It's insane. But because like I said, today, if you want to order a pay-per-view, you just go on the app on your phone and just a couple buttons and you're done. So my mom tries to order WrestleMania 26 on DirecTV, and for whatever reason, the automated service thought that she was trying to order a porno. And so she says directly in the phone that she's trying to order, like they say, state the pay-per-view title. And she says WrestleMania 26. And she says it slow and like very thoroughly, very, with a lot of enunciation. And the voice comes back with, "You've selected hungry Hungarian whores. Is this correct?" Swear to God. And like, it's still something me and my mom talk about all the time. Like every so often, like especially around WrestleMania season, I'll just walk in the room and just go, "You've selected hungry Hungarian whores. Is this correct?" And like the automated voice literally says, "You've selected, this title," and then it says, "Is this correct?" And she's like screaming into the phone, no, like trying to make sure that doesn't get ordered. Because she's gonna go off because that day she was gonna go off to work that night. So like if I'm at the house by myself and I'm watching the pay-per-view she ordered and it just flips to who knows what, she wasn't really gonna be there to take over the controls of the TV. And so just that whole experience was so funny. I just remember having a hell of a time trying to get the pay-per-view ordered once we finally got that whole thing situated. Honestly, my first memories of it were watching the Money in the Bank ladder match live, and seeing like I think my first memory of it just because as a kid, the first thing I always wanted to see when the camera came on was what the stage looked like. Because they always did a really good job, even back then. Because back in 2010, like you didn't have like these other like news outlets like getting into the arena. You didn't have the people that were actually a part of the crew. You didn't have the people that were setting up the stage, like whipping out their iPhone 13, you know, with their fucking 4 or 5 cameras on the side and taking these like super detailed pictures and videos. Like that wasn't a thing back then. So they were really good at keeping like the stage design under wraps every year. And so like they didn't do set reveals until like social media became so like to the point where like you can't hide what the set looks like until the show starts anymore. So Vince finally just kind of gave in to that whole thing and was just like, let's start doing set reveals. And so like, but like back then they weren't doing the set reveals and they were like keeping that under lock and key. And so I remember just like my eyes being glued to the screen for the first like 30 seconds of it. And like when I think it was Fantasia, I think that was her name.
Yes.
Who did the she did a really good job. That was one of my favorite America the Beautifuls that's been done in all of WrestleMania. And seriously, that was really well done. And I remember just as that was happening, like I remember live in the moment being a little 13-year-old just being like, who gives a shit? Show me the stage. And just like, because all they were showing like right when it started was just her standing on the stage and you could only see like one of the video screens behind her. You didn't know like until the camera like really panned out that it was like this whole pyramid structure that they had made, which was like so impressive looking. But I just remember my first impressions of it were just like being so fascinated and starstruck, or not even starstruck, just awestruck, for pardon my incorrect terminology there. I was really awestruck just by the whole stage design and just the technology that was put forth into that. And like that was also the year for that WrestleMania where it was that WrestleMania where they started introducing the circular screen that comes down and like goes in the ring, like when they're actually in the ring doing their entrance. Do you remember that?
Oh yes, yes.
Because that they did that for 26 and for 27. For 27, it was like a cube that came down.
I remember.
They stopped doing that. I don't know why. Maybe Vince just thought it didn't look good. But it was like only for those 2 WrestleManias. It was 26 and 27 where they had like a circular like little screen that could come down and like be a part of the camera shots for the entrances and stuff. But it's just weird that they like dropped that after 2 WrestleManias. But I remember the first one was that little, you know, round screen, and the one after that was the cube. But honestly, I just remember like, because that was back when you could really get into a WrestleMania and like get emotionally invested into it. Mm-hmm. Say what you want, but nobody who wasn't savvy to the wrestling business side, nobody who was just a fan knew who was winning that match. Career versus streak, like nobody knew. With Mania 25, you were pretty much like, well, I mean, Taker's never beaten Shawn, but Shawn's never beaten No, I was right. Taker's never beaten Shawn, but Taker's never lost at WrestleMania. And so you had this weird, yeah, I guess I could see Shawn winning, but it was the streak. Like you just knew Shawn wasn't like as credible of a person taking the streak as Shawn was. It just, I don't know. Like for me, even like going into that Mania, and again, I didn't watch it live. I was not like sweating bullets during any of that buildup for Mania that streak was gonna, be taken. Like I never really saw the streak being in serious jeopardy, I guess. And maybe that's just because I was really young and didn't understand the whole history of Shawn and Taker and didn't understand the business side of, this whole wrestling industry. And so because I was just seeing it as a very young, uninformed fan and strictly that, I just remember not really thinking Taker's streak was in jeopardy for 25. But I remember for the whole show for 26, like every match I was trying to get invested into and trying to enjoy, I just remember being just so nervous the whole time. Like, what if Shawn does it? Like, what if Shawn does it? Like, his career's on the line now. And like, I couldn't picture Shawn walking away. But again, I didn't really, see the whole reality to, what comes with the wrestling industry. And I didn't, see that on the other side of that curtain in gorilla position, he's thinking about, seeing his kids grow up. And so like, if you're savvy to him, like wanting to, or essentially having one eye, on the door because he wants to, be a family man. If you're savvy to that, then you can see the streak living and Shawn retiring at WrestleMania. But if you're just a fan, and you're just, you know, buying into the story wholeheartedly, you couldn't really see Shawn losing with his career on the line. So like, I just remember being so just nervous, just the whole show, just like, what if he really loses? What if he really loses? And that match, even though it was like 30 minutes or so, it felt like 30 days. Just every kick out felt so just like, and I was just like, it's just insane. And like the Shawn kicking out of the second tombstone, like I saw like even with him, you know, with the first tombstone to the outside, and then Taker, you know, kind of taking a few minutes to get Shawn back in the ring, and then the pin, like you could see him not, you know, you could see him, you know, getting out of that, kind of like how Edge got out of the tombstone we talked about before when Charles Robinson's running down the ramp at Mania 24. Like they had no timing in there to kind of pad the move, and you know, no pun intended, since he did that on the pad outside. But you know, they had a way to kind of time it where it was plausible Shawn was going to kick out again. And I mean, before that, the year before, he kicked out of it with, you know, no delay whatsoever. The finish was not protected whatsoever. And Shawn just flat out kicked out of it after kicking out of everything else Taker had to offer. But that deep into the match, you had the tombstone was hit. There was 2, maybe 3 choke slams hit and a last ride. So now he hits this second tombstone immediately after the choke slam. And like, I legitimately thought the match was done at that point. And so when Shawn kicked out again, and this time it wasn't protected, he went right to the pin, and he just kicked out. That was like the only person I would say that ruined that match for me was Matt Striker. But other than that, fucking go back and watch Survivor Series 2010, where it's either free or fired when John Cena has to make that decision for Wade Barrett. I'll either free you or I'll fire you. You know, that whole story where, you know, it was like when Cena was forced to be a Nexus. Oh, yeah. And then Orton was defending the championship against Wade Barrett. And it was either Cena ensured that Wade Barrett won the title and then Wade would free him from Nexus, or Cena would call the match down the middle, and should Randy win, Wade would fire him. And so for weeks, he was just saying over and over again, I'll either free you or I'll fire you. And that was like their selling point for that match. Orton hits the RKO. Cena makes the pin. He counts 1, 2. He hesitates for a half second on the 3 because he knows like what's going to happen to him. But he does the right thing and he counts the 3. And as soon as he does, you hear you hear Matt Striker just yell, "Cena's free!" Like that. And then there's a little bit of silence, and then Michael just goes, He's fired, Matt. Cena's fired. Fired. And then there's just a little bit of silence, and then Matt just goes, I'm sorry, I got caught up in the moment. And then he just completely stops talking. And it's at that point he's probably getting chewed out by Vince on the headset. But it was so fucking funny to me. But like, seriously, he, in my opinion, he ruined the fucking, he pretty much all of 2010 he ruined by being on the commentary team. But he really did not do well in this career versus streak match, like in terms of his calls. That was something I remember too. Like even as like being a young kid, I remember being like, who is this guy on commentary? This guy sucks. But he and funny enough, like not even that long after the whole Cena's free incident, he wasn't on the commentary team anymore. So wonder why. But and you'll see when we're doing this watch along, or maybe you won't because you're gonna have it muted. So you won't see here, but next time you go back and watch this, listen to Matt's commentary. It's funny. If you are in the need of a pick me up, or if you're in the need of a chuckle, if you need a pick me up, or if you need something to put a smile on your face, or if you need something to just make you chuckle, listen to Matt Striker try to call a match. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, that's oh yeah. Well, before we get into this, what was your first experience or your first memory? Because you said you could remember where you were watching it.
Yes, I remember living room watching it with my parents. Funny enough, just like you, I remember the Money in the Bank match. And I remember just not really focused on the rest of the card, just waiting for the Undertaker match. Because like you were saying, it started with me around Edge being super nervous about the streak ending. So I didn't know how it was going to go each and every year. And being so close with Michaels and it the previous year, I was like, oh, holy shit, it can go either way. Because like you said, we weren't privy to knowing if Michaels was gonna retire or not, because this was basically the first career match we were faced with. And it's like, well, Triple H has had how many after this? He's always won them. So it's like, oh my God, Michaels can win this. And it's could be like that could be the end of the Undertaker streak. And it's like, I'm just waiting for this. And as I was fast forwarding to get to this point here, I really remember how forgettable the rest of the card is. Like,
it's not forgettable. I mean, there's a lot of good shit on here. I mean, you got Edge and Jericho, you got Cena, Batista. The McMahon and Hart match does not count as a stroke of genius on this show, but yeah, I mean, like, and I mean, the Money in the Bank match is always exceptional.
It always is.
Oh, always, and this year was no different. I mean, I would say 25 was a little bit better than 26's Money in the Bank ladder match.
Yeah,
but no, but I mean, it was a good match and it was a good choice for a winner. But what's funny what you said, talking about all the different, career-threatening matches they did after this. But when you think about it, well, Triple H only had 2 career-threatening matches, and he won both of them. You're right, but you got to remember too. 2 years before this WrestleMania, Ric Flair did a career-threatening match at WrestleMania. Yeah. So like, so Shawn wasn't necessarily, the first like putting my career on the line match. And even before that, at like WrestleMania 7, that I'm pretty sure that Savage Warrior match was a retirement step.
But so I wasn't watching a WrestleMania 7.
No, I'm just talking about, because when you're saying like this was like the first, maybe that's just me taking your words too literally, but when you said this was like the first like career-threatening WrestleMania match, but it just got me thinking, like, just see like, was that the case? But no, because I remember just even with Mania 24 when we were talking about, because I forgot about that too. I would say I was far more shit and bricks nervous that Edge was going to take the streak from Taker, be it fairly or by cheating, than Shawn was going to take it the next year. Like I remember when I watched that Mania 24 match live with, when the sports bar, I remember getting like tearing at a point, like crying at the point, like where he was like doing the low blow and the camera shit. Like I really thought you thought he was going to retain and beat the streak by cheating. Like you were getting so angry and like you genuinely hated it.
I vividly remember running through rooms. Like, is the match over yet? No, they're still fighting. Oh my God, he's like using some kind of cheat, and I'm like, I don't want to see if he loses. See if he loses.
But
yeah, but what I meant was like it was like the first career-threatening match that that we cared about, because it's like,
well, I mean, I cared about Rick's.
Yeah, well, I wasn't. I was always an Undertaker fan. I wasn't too much. I didn't know that much about Ric Flair.
You could definitely say this was the first career-threatening match that had a genuine level and layer of uncertainty to it, because I think everybody and their mother knew Ric Flair was not winning that career-threatening match. Like that whole story was kind of culminating to its end. And I mean, on top of that, when he gets in the ring, got his family at the front row, and the camera films it and like shows his family. Why is his family all there in suits and dresses with tears in their eyes before the match even starts? If he's got even half of a chance of winning this thing, you know what I mean? So like, just the writing was on the wall for even like a kid who was seeing this, not knowing the like business side of it. As a kid, like just seeing his family in suits and dresses in tears in the front row before the match even starts, you're just kind of like, I'm pretty sure this is going to be the last one. Yeah. So I mean, certainly with Shawn's, there was a genuine element of like, this can go either way. And there was an interesting thing I thought of not that long ago. The Instagram page, The Great One Memes, made a picture of all these different like Mania main event matches. And something I noticed just in that picture was that Undertaker is the only talent ever that not only retired somebody else in the main event of WrestleMania, but then also retired himself in the main event of WrestleMania. So like he's the only one. Shawn would be able to make that claim if the career-threatening match of 24 was the main event. if Shawn had main evented 24 and retired Rick and then was retired by Taker in the main event, Taker and Shawn would be able to make that claim. But it's only Taker who can say he retired someone else in the main event and then was also retired in the main event.
Yeah.
And he also can say he was retired in the main event both ways. He was retired in the main event losing and going out on top.
Yeah, right.
So he actually did it like 3 different ways. So it's fucking, and like all in the main event. So it's fucking gnarly when you think about it. That just kind of makes him like the like undisputed GOAT, in my opinion. Like when people try to say like who's the best of all times, like, well, who's better than the guy who literally retired someone else and retired himself in the main events of the biggest show of the year, and also made the show synonymous with his own name. Like,
yeah,
there's nobody who's bigger than that.
That's right. And not only that, he has main evented WrestleMania in 4 different decades. Just something to think about. 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and then 2020.
That's very true. See, here I am freaking out about U2 being the only band that's done a number 1 album in 4 different decades. If they do a number 1 album anytime in this decade, then it's 5 decades. But I never realized that. You're absolutely right. Mania 13 in the 90s, Mania 24 in the O's, Mania 26 in the 2010s, and then Mania 33. Well, no, Mania 33 still counts in the 10s, but then Mania 36 in 20.
Yep.
That's wow. And those last 2 barely count. Like those 2 are at the beginning of the decade, 2010 and 2020. So he like, you know what I mean? Like if he barely got those in there.
Well, then you can count 2017. He main evented that. So that.
No, but I'm saying like, no, that's true. Okay, then that's fair. So if we're for the last decade, he barely got that one in there.
Yeah.
Because if you're taking away 2010, then yeah, no, you're right. He got the extra padding in there with 33. Fuck me, I totally forgot about that. So no, you're right. But with the 2021, yeah, he barely got that one because that was like at the start of that decade. If it was 2019, then that would only be 3 decades. But that's cool. I never noticed that. That's a very impressive statistic.
Yeah, right.
Another feather in his goat cap.
Yes, another in his many feathers, added to the many feathers in the cap.
I'm cool with that.
So, are you ready for the match?
I am.
Awesome. So as we begin WrestleMania 26, we are queued up at 3 hours, 10 minutes, and 10 seconds on the Peacock Network.
On the cock.
And like you were saying, yeah, a totally different generation is never going to know about ordering pay-per-views the way we used to. Over the phone, through the mail, on demand. They're just going to be used to doing the WWE Network or the Peacock Network. That's how they're going to get the pay-per-views. And to make ourselves feel even older, let us watch an almost 12-year-old pay-per-view as we continue the 4-part series of WrestleManias of Shawn Michaels and Triple H. I am ready. You're ready.
Bro, 10 years from now, you're going to be telling your kids that you had to make a phone call to order a pay-per-view, and your kid's going to go, what's a phone call?
Oh.
Like that, like think about that. Kids, and then, you know, in another 10, 15 years, kids are going to go, calls? Phone calls? Mail? What is
exactly?
What is this you speak of?
Oh my God, yes.
Physical contact?
Physical contact? Exactly, right?
Real human eye-to-eye interaction? What is all this you speak of?
Oh, a different generation. Yes, yes. And we are from there.
Back in my days, our time spent was going outside. There's a really funny old Eddie Griffin stand-up comedy joke talking about how like you couldn't wait to, like that was like what you did when you grew up. All you did was go outside and just play. Like there was no phones, there was no video gaming. Like you just went outside and just ran up and down the corner with your friends. There's a really like funny stand-up joke he does about that, like how kids are never gonna like understand like how like basic childhood was for people. Yeah. And like we had even better than that. But like I'm talking about like for like our parents, they were like just literally just running around outside.
Yeah, Well, on that note, let us get
On
started.
that note,
On
my
that
kids are
note,
just going outside.
yeah, right. 3, 2, 1, play. And we
I
get
should have thrown a Three Stooges joke your way when you did the countdown.
what's
Because
this joke?
and when a lot of the classic ones, like where they're doing a count to set something up, so like for in the I Can Hardly Wait episode, Curly's got a tooth that he needs pulled out, and they can't get it out no matter what they do. And so they're trying all these different things. They try tying the tooth to a doorknob and then slamming the door. And when they slam the door, the knob comes off. They like try all these different things to get the tooth out, and it won't come out. And so finally, they put him on a ladder and tie his tooth to the ceiling fan, and they tell him on 3 to just drop off the ladder. And so Mo goes, all right, on 3, 1, 2, and then Larry just goes 2.5. Mo just turns, looks at him, just paintbrushes him, just quiet. Starts over. 1, 2, 3. Curly jumps off the ladder. The ceiling fan breaks off the roof. The ceiling comes down with him, knocks his dome, knocks him clean out. But in a lot of the recurring episodes where they have to do a count for something, and Mo will go on 3, 1, 2, 2.5. There's always that where Larry will just come in with just a random ass 2.5. And so when you were doing your countdown to start this watch along, when you were doing 3, 2, I so badly wanted to throw one of those in there.
Well, now we know for next time. I'll pause at 2 next time, waiting for it.
No, next time you can't do a countdown. Next time you got to count up. Next time you got to go on 3, 1, 2,
yes.
2.5.
I will remember that. I remember that. That will be.
You a Stooges fan at all?
I used to watch it. Yes.
Oh man, I still watch it. It's funny stuff.
Yes, I used to watch it. When I lived in Illinois, they had Sven Gulli. He would always play it at late nights.
Oh, you're talking about the Stoogepalooza?
Yes.
I used to watch that shit too on WGN. Yes.
WGN, Stoogepalooza. How can I forget?
On the CW, bro. That's exactly where we would watch SmackDown in 07 too.
Of course.
Dude, the CW was my hub back then, because on Fridays I'd be on the CW for SmackDown, and on Saturdays I'd be there watching the Stoogepalooza.
Oh yeah, and CW, that was Supernatural for me. Oh yeah.
Yeah, my little sister's a huge Supernatural fan. I remember that being a big thing back then, but like I never really watched it. Do you know that there was a I can't remember the name of the show. It was in the 90s. It was like 98, 99. It was called Paranormal something. But Undertaker is a cameo on it.
Poltergeist, The Legacy.
Poltergeist. I knew it was someone with a P. Thank you.
Yes.
Poltergeist.
I talked about that in one of my Halloween episodes, I think, rewatching that episode. Oh yeah,
he's a very underrated actor, man. Like
I always wanted him in Supernatural to show up like that. Oh yeah, he's the best and stuff like that.
He's a good actor. Like when that guy's begging him off and asks, "Can I make you a deal?" and he just goes, "What kind of deal?" Like that the way, the look, the eyes, and he's been very good at that. Even in this, for example.
Well, yeah, because this is
when Shawn costs him the world championship, and then on the next night's Raw, he's explaining his actions. He says to Taker, "I asked you, I begged you for a rematch." And as he screams, "I begged you," you see Taker just go.
Yeah. Well, see,
like the way he lifts his head, the way his eyes dim, like he's been very, very, very good at not only acting but reacting his whole career.
Because a lot of
no different on fucking Poltergeist. The way he reacted and the way he played off the dude he was chasing, he was great in that.
A lot of this is it's just like theater. It's all acting, basically, with your eyes and your motions and everything else.
Oh, he was great in the fucking Escape the Undertaker Netflix movie.
Yeah.
He's great in all that he does.
Oh yeah, I know.
But yeah, you're absolutely right, man. This is this is, as Jim Cornette puts it, Disney on parade. But this is like literally, just a lot of just theater and lights and just.
It's
so annoying too that the WrestleMania rants are not this long anymore. Remember when it would be a really long ramp and then another just half of it just being them just walking at floor level? And it would make you feel like the ramp was like a fucking mile. Now they bring the stage forward enough. Like, because back in those days, they would, push the stage back enough that they could do these super extravagant ramps. Now they bring the stage out forward enough and they make the actual stage that the wrestler comes out on so ginormously wide in terms of like the depth from when they come out of Gorilla to the point where they actually go to the center where they're supposed to be for their camera poses. They're walking like a solid half mile from the fucking Gorilla position curtain to where they have to be at the center stage. The stage is just grown ridiculously. And then in turn, the ramp has always, like, ever since Mania 29, 28 even, 27 was the first time. Ever since Mania 27, the stage has been brought out ridiculously, and the ramp has been half the size, and it's been made to exactly meet where the format starts. 27, 28, 29, 30. Yeah, 30 did it too. Like every Mania, even at AT&T Stadium, they still pulled that shit off.
Yeah.
I was convinced when I went to AT&T Stadium that they were going to have to go back to that old school ramp where the stage is, the stage is a little bit further back. They do the ramp, and then you get a little bit of the floor entrance too. And for fucking 32, they just made the stage itself a star, and a ginormous star that once again made them walk out from Gorilla and then have to walk like a while to get to the center of the stage and then walk down the ramp. And all that extra footage on the stage is what makes the ramp like so short. And I don't understand why Vince has been doing that every Mania since. It kind of makes the Mania not even feel like Mania anymore. You know what I mean? Because like they do those grand Super Showdown pay-per-views in these, football size arenas, and the ramp is significantly small. And so when your biggest show of the year, WrestleMania, doesn't have a super long ramp that's different from every other event you do in the year, like it doesn't make it feel like your Super Bowl. Because WrestleMania is supposed to feel like your Super Bowl, like the thing you look forward to every year. It can't even feel like your other big fours, because the big fours you get multiple times a year. WrestleMania is the one, you get one a year. And that should always be so much larger than life that like it's different from every other show in every way. The matches are better, the stories are better, the ramp is longer, the stage is more extravagant. Like in every facet, it should be extravagant. It should be pure pageantry in every sense of the word. And so then now, reducing the size of the ramps and really they made AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE Championship seem completely unimportant. Nobody walked into that. I was there live. Nobody walked into that fucking WrestleMania like genuinely hyped for that match, like they were when that match happened in New Japan. Like, no. And the match was booked terribly. It was booked in a WWE way. Like people went into that expecting New Japan shit, and they got Vince McMahon shit instead. And so it was very disappointing. I remember like being very disappointed by that whole match. But just so like now the matches are not as important at all anymore. Now it's just about getting everybody on the card. The story doesn't even have to make sense. The championship can literally be dragged through the mud if it has to be. The championship match can be, like fourth on the card, first on the card these days. WrestleMania 35, they opened up the show, Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins with the Universal Championship. Like, when was that ever a thing that a WrestleMania would open with the World Championship? You do that shit at the Royal Rumble. I understand that. Royal Rumble, you do that because the Royal Rumble match is your main event. But opening a WrestleMania with the World Championship, that's just, as Jim Cornette would put it, lazy booking. And it's fun if you want to get a cool jump start to your WrestleMania, but it's just like, where do you go from there? You start WrestleMania 35 with Brock Lesnar losing to Seth Rollins. The crowd pops like a motherfucker. Where do you go from there? So I don't know. And maybe I'm not looking at WrestleMania the way I should be looking at it, but I think WrestleMania has definitely lost its way.
I agree. And as you finish that thought, we get the stare down between the Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. As you see, as
Sorry, bro. I'm just passionate about it. Like
no,
this was
no,
our childhood. Like this is something we look forward to every year, and it's now like half of the importance that it used to be. It's so annoying, man. Like we should at least have one event a year to genuinely look forward to.
I agree. I agree. And something has lost in WrestleMania. Um, and as you put it, the pageantry is different. Because that's where that and bring it all the way back to Undertaker. That's where he brings out his most elaborate entrances, where you can actually feel the pageantry in his entrances, as we saw here.
Yes, that was a great entrance.
Him raising from the ground again, as he did in 25, coming from like the depths of hell, with the laser.
That was 3 WrestleManias in a row, if I'm not mistaken, that he raised up from the ground. Because it was 24, he rose up. 25, he rose up, and 26, he rose up.
In 27, he almost does too. He comes from the bottom of the steps.
He just walks up that. And
Yeah.
that was another thing that made that stage look so stupid for Mania 27. That was such a lazy stage. It was a black stage with an open slit in the middle,
Yeah.
a round LED screen, a little claw-like structure, and then a circular WrestleMania logo that could light up. That was the laziest, I think, in my opinion, WrestleMania stage I've ever seen. And that Georgia Dome was shit in terms of acoustics. If you go and listen to Cena's entrance when he does the run, the drums on his like his drums in the Georgia Dome, there's like it sounds like a drum line where none of them are playing together.
Wow.
It was just so echoey in that Georgia Dome, and I understand why they never went back, and also why it got torn down. But they tore it down not long after that WrestleMania. I don't know if it was directly because of that, but they did, and I would imagine it was because the acoustics were absolute shit in there. But yeah, that whole stage was so lazy. I guess you could count him coming up from the ground then because he had to literally walk up a ramp. But for 28. No, 28 he didn't. 28 he just walked out from the entrance side. 29 he rose up from the ground. He didn't rise up on like the platform the way we would see here, where it's like an automated, elevated rise, but he came up those stairs with the Creatures of the Night, grabbing at his ankles. No, 30 he didn't rise up either. I'm trying to remember all the other ones.
He doesn't rise up again till 33 and then 34.
33, you're right. Yeah, 33 and 34, you're right.
And 34, we get the return of the lasers that we had here.
Yeah, but they kept it strict to the ring though. But it was really cool. I liked the lasers that year in the ring.
Yeah.
And being there live, like seeing that visual of Taker standing in the ring with Cena cowering in the corner and all those LED lasers. That was fucking cool.
I can't wait till we do our 34 watch along. You talk about your memories of seeing that live.
Oh, that was great, man.
Can't wait. We see
what's really sad too is that now that, because I always talk about how I regret not going to Mania 35 live. Now I got another reason to regret it because now Triple H has been forced to retire.
Yeah, so
that was his last match.
No, he had one against Orton at Super Showdown.
Okay, it was his last match in the States.
Yes, last States match.
I gotta say, that was a good one to go out on.
Yeah, it was a good one to go out on.
That was a good one, honestly. I remember watching that one and being genuinely entertained by it. I remember like moaning and groaning when it got booked because I thought it was just, once again, a lazy booking. But I remember like going into that match, like just again, not being all that excited, but then watching it and being like, that was really good. And not too long before that, Triple H worked Cena in Saudi Arabia too.
Hang on, I thought Undertaker's gonna do his jump. But no, Michael stops him, goes right for
No, he stops him. I was gonna say he doesn't do it. I was gonna say, doesn't he not do it that year? 27's the last time he ever does it.
27's the last time he does it. I don't remember if he does it in 26.
He doesn't. No, he doesn't do it.
He doesn't?
He doesn't, no.
But we got
24,
another
25.
29 moment here. He tries it. He stops.
29, he tries it, and then Paul Heyman fucks it up for us all.
Yes.
He also, the last time he ever tried it was at the first ever Super Showdown, which was in Australia. when he worked Triple H in the main event. He tries it, and then as he's going for it, Triple H runs in the ring and just chucks a chair at his legs.
Oh my God.
I remember that. But like, I remember just him even attempting it. Just even
it's gets the adrenaline in the audience, like, oh my God.
No, I was scared. I was not excited. I was like, please don't. I was like, please don't. I remember just being like, but like I wanted to see it. I remember just being like, please don't try that. Like, just please don't try this. I remember being genuinely like nervous and not wanting to see him do it. And then when he didn't do it, and then Triple H blocked it, I was just like there was a genuine sigh of relief that came out of me when Triple H blocked it. I was just like, okay, good. He's not gonna try that. You know what this actually reminds me of too? Taker, the whole match and after the match, does excellent selling of Shawn working on the knee. If you remember 3 Manias prior, Shawn works on Cena's leg in Mania 23 in their match, and Cena no-sells the shit out of it. Right. And Shawn is so irate about it that he goes off script because he's supposed to shake Cena's hand in the ring after the match in the way that Rock did it at Mania 29. And he doesn't. He leaves the ring and goes halfway up the ramp. Cena chases him down, turns him around to still keep true to the story, and Shawn still refuses to shake his hand. And then will tell anyone who will listen backstage how livid he is that Cena didn't sell the leg. I remember that. And I just learned that recently. Like, I recently was watching, I think it was like a What Culture video, or maybe it was a Parts Unknown video, one of those two. No, it could have also been, what's the other one? Cultaholic, those guys. It could have been those guys too. It was one of those sites that made a like 10 times wrestlers without script and you didn't know they did video. And I watched it, and that was like, I think either number 3 or number 2. And I remember just being so fascinated, like he was that bad that Cena didn't sell it, that he literally just blew off the whole, putting him over. And what's better is too, the next night on Raw, he continues to not put him over, because the next night on Raw, he cuts that epic promo on Cena and he says, I am sick and tired of having to come out here, look guys in the eye, extend my hand to them, and lie to myself, calling them the better man. And just like the way he cut that promo was great. And it just further and just now with the whole backstory that I know about him being so livid about Cena not, selling for him, I could believe 24 hours removed, there was some genuine truth in him saying to Cena, you may have won last night, but you are not the better man. Oh yeah. So this just Shawn, man, he's the only other man I could make a claim to of being like synonymous with WrestleMania.
Oh, kicks up right to the choke slam. Oh yeah. And you just talk about the pageantry of WrestleMania. We just got that beautiful image of that pyramid kind of stage they do above that ring. Oh, it was wonderful how they did that here.
Just the lighting that they had for the whole room, because you've got these yellow and oranges and reds on the bottom, and then the ceiling is decked out in purple.
Yeah.
And the way those colors blended, it made a really nice desert feel. Yeah.
Makes you feel like you're in the desert. Makes you feel like you're in Arizona, which where it is. So it
which is where it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What's crazy here too is that Taker skipped out on reapplying the hair dye. You can clearly see all along the top of his head where it's just his natural redhead.
Yeah.
Because he just said, fuck it, even though it's WrestleMania and it's my show and I'm in the main event. Fuck it, we just won't re-dye this year. We'll just put a little natural orange in there.
Right.
We'll let the Lorax side of our character shine through this year. So remember in 2015,
a little bit of realness.
Oh yeah, remember in 2015 when he gave zero fucks and came back looking like a fucking werewolf with the fucking hair all over his shoulders and back? Remember that shit?
I don't.
He looked like George the goddamn Animal Steel when he came back in 2015 at Battleground. When he shows up and interferes in the match, he's got fucking stubblies everywhere. Everywhere. He looked like a fucking woodland creature. How do you know?
I just remember his face. I remember his face coming when he came back. I remember his face, like the pissed off face. I don't remember that about his shoulders. I had to look that again.
Oh, dude, there were so because like that first shot that you see when the camera zooms in is him, staring at Lesnar, and all you can see is his left shoulder and the side of his left face, the left side of his face, and it's oh my god, dude, it was so funny when he came out like that because he didn't have the.
Oh, here comes the tombstone on the outside we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, but you could also tell that was botched too. You could tell that they were going for the spot they did in 25 where he catches him in midair in a perfect tombstone position.
Yeah.
But the way he landed when he did that, like flip off the rope, like he landed more like horizontally to Taker instead of vertically. So like he wasn't able to you can see him trying to catch him in the tombstone position, and it doesn't really work. He only just has him by one arm and by one leg. And so then he just kind of just says fuck it and just strongmans him, puts him on his shoulders and just does the whole turnaround. But look at his shoulders right there. They're just like they're like perfectly bare, clean shaven. Somebody took the time to dot their I's and cross their T's before going out there this year. But like what I'm saying is for 2015, I love Taker, dude. I'm not trying to, I'm not ribbing on him or not ribbing on him. I'm not, ripping him apart or even what's the word I'm looking for? Knocking him. I'm not even knocking him. I'm just if anything, I'm just making a joke. It's like seriously, in 2015, he didn't have the long hair like he does here to kind of, cover up his shoulders.
The only thing I can say is
that the short hair, his beard, and then just, dude, I'm like werewolf fur everywhere.
I guess like the idea, the only way I can justify it is like maybe he was like in hibernation the whole year, just thinking about revenge.
But he wasn't because he showed up at Mania.
He showed up in Bray Wyatt.
And he was clean. No. That was literally just Vince called him that weekend. How do you feel like showing up for Battleground, pal? And he just was like, fuck it, I'm not doing the whole you let me know in the fucking 10th, you let me know when there's 10 seconds left in the fourth quarter, that you need me to go out there. So I'm not gonna, do the whole 9 yards. I bet he just put on the gear and just went out there. It was like, this is what you get for telling me last goddamn minute.
Ooh.
No, but he doesn't get this.
I know. A nice last ride reversal. We don't see too many reversals like that for the last ride.
No. I believe Edge counters a last ride similarly to that in the Mania 24 match.
Yeah.
He does something similar. I remember what he does. He gets set up for the last ride, and then right when Taker picks him up and sets him up for the full stand, he slips out the back, grabs him by his neck, and hits the swinging neck, not swinging, but just a neck breaker.
Yeah.
But that was also a great reversal to the last ride. The way he slid out, just grabbed it. It was like a reverse diamond cutter or like a reverse RKO. He just grabbed him by his back and just pulled him down.
Undertaker putting more damage on the knee, selling it like crazy the whole match.
And then when he does
the first move was the old school, and that's where he started selling it because it's like Shawn pulled his leg in front.
Dude, his selling is great because he makes you think he's legitimately crying. Every time he takes a low blow, he makes it look like he's crying. Every time. There were a lot of YouTube videos, YouTube poop videos back in 2008, 2009 that would show him hunched over from taking a low blow, and he would make it look like he was crying.
Yeah.
Every time he was taking it. That I always didn't like to see, though. I never liked seeing Undertaker sell a low blow because it made a dead man just look human. You know what I mean? It's similar to, I was talking about it on my Instagram earlier this week. The fucking in the segment leading up to WrestleMania 29 where Punk's in the ring, first sweet chin music of the match.
Yes.
In the lead up to WrestleMania 29, Punk is in the ring holding the urn. And then he gets in Taker's, kneel position and he says, rest in peace, gong ring, lights go out. Lights come back on, Taker's in the ring, bringing a whooping to him. Urn slips out of the ring, Paul Heyman recovers it, fumble style, and just runs up the ramp. Here's my issue. Here's the reverse. Like a week later or a week before that, Taker's in the ring saying in a promo he wants the urn back. As he's leaving, Punk is now shown backstage, pretending to be Paul Bearer, doing the Paul Bearer voice, and then, tossing around the urn. And he's saying, if you get counted out or DQ'd, it's still a loss and all that shit. Explain to me why the lights couldn't have gone out and why the lights couldn't have gone back on and Taker could have just been in the locker room right there behind Punk. Like, why was it only in that segment that he was bound to the ring like a man? Like, darn curses. If only I could just teleport right now and just be where you are backstage. Oh, wait, I can. So it's just like, that made no sense to me. Why was he just...
A good thing is, I don't think he's ever done that. I don't think he's ever teleported to backstage.
They did the reverse of that, where in SmackDown, it was 2008, where he had Chavo Guerrero backstage in the GM's office and was raising hell on him. And then Big Show runs to the backstage area to, come rescue Chavo. The lights go out, lights come back on. He has now teleported from the general manager's backstage office to the ring. So I'm saying, what, he can't do the reverse? He can't leave and appear backstage?
That's a good idea. I don't even remember that. I never remember him like interrupting a backstage promo like that. So yeah.
No, they've never done something like that, but that's what I'm saying. It's a big...
I bet the best thing to do would have been that one.
He can be backstage and then appear in the ring, but he can't be in the ring and then appear backstage. Like, that just made no sense to me. So I was just like, why is Punk just allowed to just verbally just destroy Taker right now while Taker just stands there in the ring with this just mean face? Like, man, if only I could just vanish right now and just appear behind you.
He's gotta get the urn at WrestleMania, pal. He's gotta wait till WrestleMania, pal.
Made no sense, man. And maybe that's just me looking too deeply into the plot, but it just makes no sense. That guy's at the wrong fucking event. What idiot is wearing a Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction shirt front row at WrestleMania? You see that guy?
Yeah, I see that guy.
Who wears a Guns N' Roses shirt to a WrestleMania?
That guy. That guy does.
Well, the guy right behind him is wearing a Boston Red Sox jersey. So, I mean, both of these guys are at the wrong event.
And there's the guy right behind him dressed as Hulk Hogan, who's not even at this event.
Yeah, but I mean, if this was 2017, 2018, they would have asked him to leave before the show even started. They would have been throwing him out. Sir, you can't be wearing that in here.
Different times.
I love here when Shawn pops back up and then falls back down. It's almost like a homage to Ric Flair taking the flop bump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is. It's like just a little bit of a homage to Ric Flair. He gets up, he's super hyped. He's like, "Let's go," and then flops again. I loved that.
His Undertaker.
Before Taker even does the last, before Taker even tries the last ride through the table, as you said, the great selling he does. He's standing there smacking the shit out of his knee, trying to put the feeling back into it. This was the only time when I was watching the match live that I legitimately thought he broke the streak. When he gets him back in the ring and he immediately hits a third Sweet Chin Music. And that third one, dude, the way Taker would bump for the Sweet Chin Music.
I know.
How fast he hits the ground. He would hit the ground before Shawn would slap his thigh.
Yeah, and it was like he would fall like that. It's like he's actually getting smacked.
It was like literally like that. It was like, dude, and that right there, I told you about when we did the last watch along, the way Taker would sell, the way Taker would, when he gets up and he's all out of it, he with the hands like that. He just did that outside. He was literally staring at the rope with Shawn behind him, like trying to fight the rope. And he's going to do it here too. As soon
Here
as
we
he
go.
gets up, he puts his hands up. And he just walks into it with his hands up. And then, bam! That bump, dude. I thought it was over there. And this is a really close near fall.
Yeah, it is.
That was a really close near fall. I remember watching that live and being like, well, like this is where it went from good to great.
And we'll get to it in the next two watch-alongs. I vividly remember thinking that Triple H was going to break it with Undertaker's tombstone, and I thought, Undertaker was going to lose it when Michaels hits the sweet chin music right into Triple H's pedigree. I thought that was
yeah, those are the only two times where I did. Yup. Also, like where I already like just was waiting for the three. And ironically enough, when it did happen, you did not expect the three to come down. And then when it did, like that alone to me makes the ending of the streak so underwhelming, because you would have wanted that pin, the one that actually did it, to have made you like so gut-wrenchingly nervous. But nobody assumed he was even going to stay down. We all thought he was taken out. And then that ended up being the one. And you're like, really?
Yeah.
That's
because
like,
the perfect time if they were going to do it before Lesnar, the perfect way to write it was the Michaels and Triple H team up, because it's almost like no one man can do it, but the combination of two men.
Yes. One man, even with all the weapons in the world, couldn't do it. That's the story they could have told at Mania 27. One man with all the weapons in the world couldn't do it. Two men with all the weapons in the world. That's a whole nother game. And two men who are best friends with each other and are in cahoots with each other. That's a whole nother game. Then it just becomes a handicap match.
Yeah, and handicap match of Undertaker's greatest rivals. So it's like,
excuse me, what about Big Show and A-Train?
Well, excuse you about Big Show and A-Train.
I'd argue those are two of Undertaker's biggest rivals, but in a different way.
Hang on, but
come on, I'm the pun king. Where do you think I learned it from? I'm a huge Stooges fan. How'd you get to be so smart? I went to college. I graduated. I went to Swedish massage college. Yeah, so why'd you go into that business? I couldn't find enough sweets to massage.
Good one.
Well, just all their jokes like that are so good. The best one, I think the one that still makes me laugh to this day is, well, say, lady, how do you want us to paint this room for you? Well, I'd like if you could make this room a robin egg blue. Well, that's fine and all, but we ain't got no time to go out robbing eggs. That one is probably my favorite. Well, that's great, but we ain't got no time to go out robbing eggs, lady. So and this is great. Even here, he's still selling it.
Oh, yeah. Is this where we get the first stay down of the
whole story?
The whole story. You get the first stay
down.
This
is where we're still telling the story from. At no point is the question being asked, what is Taker willing to do to keep the streak intact? The question is still focused on the challenger.
Yeah.
Not the challengee. The question is now still, what is Shawn willing to do to not only break the streak, but now, because the year before it was what's Shawn willing to do to break the streak. Now it's what's Shawn willing to do to not only break the streak, but to save his damn career. The next year is the first time we truly take the story from what's Hunter going to do to break the streak to what's Taker going to do to protect it. That was the first time they made Taker look like Shawn, because at Mania 27, Triple H is Taker and Shawn is Taker.
Yeah.
You know, and to have Undertaker, this dead man who really can't be beat, turn into this.
Here's my favorite line from Jerry Lawler coming up after we hear the slap around the world.
That look on the face of the Undertaker is turning to a look of rage.
That's it. The look of disbelief on the face of the Undertaker. There it is. The death nail in Shawn Michaels' career.
And that jumping tombstone.
Yes.
Like, holy shit.
Which will become a finishing move for The Undertaker in all the WWE video games from here on out. The leaping.
Is that the only time he ever did a jumping tombstone? Not even at WrestleMania, but just in his whole career. Is that the only time it was done?
No.
Or is there another one? Because I feel like there was another one.
There was another one. I don't know. I don't remember when, but I remember seeing it.
That was so, and the story that they told right
Gives it to
there.
Shane McMahon at Survivor Series 2001. He gives him like the thumbs down. He leaps and tombstones him.
I thought you meant at Mania 32 he did it. I was like, no, he did not do a leaping tombstone at 32.
No.
He tombstoning him through the table on the outside, and then Shane reversed it. What I love here, though, watch this replay, dude. Just the height he got. He got the height of a small child. He got the height of a swaggle on there, you know, before hitting that move. And so, and the fact that Shawn landed head first safely from 4 feet in the air, 3 feet in the air, like, because I don't care who you are. Like, imagine you putting a 10-pound bowling ball in between your knees and then jumping and then landing on the ground. Tell me you're going to have the strength in your legs, in your knees, to keep that bowling ball from bouncing boom, on the ground like that. So the fact that Taker could keep Shawn protected like that, doing a leaping tombstone, especially that deep into a match, like just you or me trying that shit well rested ain't happening. This guy did it after a 30-minute match. It's just, and he did it safely. So it's a huge testament to how just great of a worker he's been his whole time in the business. And even here, he's still selling the shit out of it. He can't even really he can't even stand up all the way without falling over. I'm sure Shawn is proving that greatly. I'm sure Shawn is very appreciative while he's laying there. He's probably thinking to himself, yeah, thank you for selling that. Thank you. The story that they tell in the last 3 minutes of this match are enough to argue that this match was better than 25. It wasn't, but the last 3 minutes are enough to make the argument, because the story of Shawn crawling up Taker, Taker being so dumbfounded at Shawn taking 2 tombstones and still standing up. And it was almost like what Michael said. He says, perhaps respect shown for the career. There's no like definitive until he goes back and picks Shawn up. There's no definitive. Is he waiting for Shawn to get up out of respect? Is he doing this out of bewilderment? Is he doing this out of, I don't know what to do right now? Like, there was no real period put on it. But when he comes back and picks Shawn up, which he does right now, when he picks him up and leans him against the rope and then says to him, nobody's ever slapped my face, which isn't true. Randy Orton slapped his face plenty of times in 2005. But he says right here, you can see him saying, no one's ever slapped my face. He says, no one's ever slapped me in the face.
Yeah.
But maybe he meant during a match, because I don't know. But and that's true up to that point, because Punk does it during the Mania 29 match, but that's after this. So maybe it's true that up to that point, nobody slapped him outright during a match.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. I feel like he got slapped outright in a match before. I don't remember. I want to say he did, but I don't remember.
But I
definitely remember him getting slapped by Orton, but that was
just segment. During the segment, and then the lightning and the lights flickering and everything. Yeah.
And then Taker saying the week later in the video segment, I can't blame you for trying to make a name for yourself by facing me at WrestleMania. But you have to understand, boy, when you slapped me across the face and jumped out of the ring like a coward, what you did was seal your own fate.
I remember that. I love the Randy Orton feud.
And it was a fucking year-long feud.
Yeah.
Literally went from WrestleMania to Armageddon.
Yeah. Year-long, just like Edge and Batista. And how.
And it was perfect. Like it ended with him getting the rub and with him getting the win over Orton in Hell in a Cell. And then what's next? He comes back and he's immediately in the world title picture. He immediately challenges Kurt for the strap.
And just like Edge and Batista, it ends in the Hell in a Cell.
Yes. And it's also really cool that is actually, like, when you think about it, that is the beginning of the three-way story of Edge, Taker, and Batista for the big gold. Because Batista is fixated on the big gold all the way through 06. That's well established. But Kurt Angle has it, obviously. It's when Taker shows up at the very end of that year's Royal Rumble.
Yes.
At the very end of the show, after the Royal Rumble match, after the main event, Taker shows up and he does that. Remember, You remember that? And so that to me
Destroys the ring with the lightning. Yeah, that's great stuff.
Imagine that, dude. That dude right here is probably the trendsetter of social media. That dude, like
the phone.
Do you see everybody else has their Kodaks and shit? He
Yeah.
had his iPhone out filming that. I imagine back in those days we had iPhone, I think at least iPhone 2, iPhone 3. But back then I think we had Instagram. We certainly had Facebook. But he probably didn't even realize how ahead of his time he was by holding up his phone in his hand like that, videotaping the moment, and then going back home and posting it on his Facebook.
Right.
He probably didn't even realize how ahead of his time he was because the guy behind him is still whipping out his Kodak, holding it to the side with the flash. The guy behind him has got his flip phone out. The guy behind him's got his BlackBerry out. So it's just like, it's insane, man.
Yeah.
My first WrestleMania, I remember for Mania 29, I was filming off my iPhone 4. Like, I remember I was doing all that, but I had zero foresight of, what was going to become of, like sharing shit on social media. Imagine how much it must suck to have the seat the furthest back from the ring and closest to the stage, like right there where those people are. That has got to suck because while the view is probably pretty good of the stage, you're walking out of there deaf.
Yeah.
Fucking 4 hours of from like 30 feet away from you. You're not walking out of there with even half of your hearing. You'll walk out of there, your friend will be like, "What'd you think of the show?" And you'll be like, "What?"
And so ends Shawn Michaels' career. So ends WrestleMania 26. We get the Shakespeare pose at the end. We get the pyros. We get the 18-0. The respect to Shawn Michaels' career.
And how many wrestlers got that, fitting end where they not only had their match, whether it was good or bad, but then they also had their, moment to walk up the ramp and wave goodbye. And, It's only a handful that I can think of. Ric Flair, Kurt Angle, Shawn, Taker. Batista did not. Did not have a moment to, celebrate with the fans. He had his moment on the Monday Night Raw right before WrestleMania. He walked out in his hometown of Washington, D.C., and he said 4 words. He looked in the camera and he just went, "Hunter, kiss my ass." Dropped the mic, and then he bowed. He took a bow in front of the fans because he knew that they knew.
Because that match, I remember that match wasn't really touted as Batista's last. Only he retired after he lost.
But he had been saying for years in shoot interviews that he wanted his last match to be against Hunter, and he wanted to put Hunter over and do for him what Hunter did for him. He had been making that known since, at least 2014 when he came back and did the Mania 30 story. Because the story he was initially promised was, you're gonna win the Rumble, you're gonna go work the main event of Mania 30 with Orton, you're gonna win, you're gonna get the strap. It was probably gonna culminate in something where maybe they slowly turned him face over that year while he's holding the belt, and Triple H and the Authority continually try to take it off of him. And then it culminates to Mania 31, where Batista's defending against Triple H. And, maybe it's it's like a double stipulation where if Batista loses the strap, he not only loses the strap, he's forced to retire. But if Triple H loses, he's the Authority is forced to be no more or whatever. Imagine we didn't do the Survivor Series story of 2014, or at least we didn't make it so that the Authority is banned. Because it would be stupid to ban the Authority, bring him back in December, then terminate him again in March. But I could see if we keep everything true, you do the Authority story, the Authority's no more at Survivor Series. Cena is forced to reinstate them at the behest of Rollins. And then you do the match where if Triple H loses, he's done. The Authority's done. If Batista loses, he's done. Like, done. It's literally like career versus Authority. And then Triple H comes out on top. And then that, like, you could set up to SummerSlam, you know, like maybe Daniel Bryan, if he didn't get hurt, or, you know, didn't have to go away, or you could have just, or if they didn't fuck up Roman Reigns, you could have Roman Reigns challenge Triple H a little bit earlier, because we're headed that way anyway for Mania 32. Yeah. So, if Triple H wins in this fantasy booking that I'm doing, where, Batista...
I love fantasy booking. We could do it so much better than how it was written.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, when you think about what Batista was thinking in 2014 when he signed on the dotted line, what he was told and what he was thinking versus what happened is not even kind of the same thing. Yeah. And so I could see in his mind him thinking he's going to win the strap at Mania. He probably holds it until next Mania, maybe. And then, like I say, you turn him face in that year. You go to him versus Triple H. You have the Authority at ringside with like Seth Rollins and shit and J&J Security, like continually helping, ensure Batista loses. And then, just further heats up Triple H as someone who they just hate, like 2008 Edge level. And then maybe have a shot of Roman Reigns being accepted as the big dog. And so I just, I think that would have been a cool way to do it. But, he was saying when that run ended that what he wanted, was to, whenever it happened, was to culminate with a retirement match against Hunter where he puts over Hunter. And he said, like, in the 2-3 years leading up to Mania 35, he kept continually trying to make the match happen. And he would reach out to WWE and call them, and they would say, we'll get back to you on that. And they never did. And he's gone on report saying that. So, I mean, the fact that it even happened, we were lucky that it happened. But no, I mean, and I think he was trying to stay true to his, heel character. He wasn't trying to get his goodbye moment. And maybe another reason why he didn't want to have his goodbye moment was because he didn't want to steal Kurt Angle's thunder. It's like, Batista has his moment, and then Angle has his moment. It's like, we both are kind of sharing a farewell together. So I could see in Batista's mind, it's like, no, I'm going to make my farewell, because he knows it's a different age of wrestling fans. They're literally reading on their phone before he walks out there what's going to happen, because Vince tore up the script 3 hours before that Raw started and is now rewriting the script. So people are probably, getting their hands on, whatever leak they can find. So, Batista knew just as well as those fans knew that when he went out there for that Monday Night Raw, it was his last. And I think in his mind, he was just going to have that be the ending for him in his hometown, say those 4 words. And he was getting cheered like he was fucking Jesus when he was in that building, even though he was a heel, because he was the hometown hero. And so I thought it was perfect that he took a bow in the ring, then walked up the ramp, turned around, took another bow. It was the only time where he actually broke character a little bit. You could argue, well, he wasn't breaking character. He was, taking in the adoration of his hometown crowd, because, when MJF just showed up in his hometown, when he, or did he show up? I don't know. I didn't watch an episode of AEW. I know that they played his music and then Punk came out and did some kind of banter with the crowd, but I didn't watch that episode, so I don't remember if I'm speaking correctly or not. I could at least say for Punk, when Punk came out for his episode of Dynamite, when he and MJF were doing that promo war, when Punk came out, he was religiously accepted, but then again, he's also a face. But I'm just saying, in a heel's hometown, he's accepted like he's God. And so, you could make the argument that Batista wasn't really breaking his heel character. He was just taking in that adoration. But any smart fan knows he was really, pulling back the character for just a shred of a second, much like how Taker kissed Michelle McCool at Mania 33. Just for that half a second, he tore away the character. And, I just felt like that was a really cool way to see, Batista, bow out and wave. But, how fucking crazy that, as we touched on earlier, that WrestleMania is still not only going to be Batista's last and Kurt Angle's last, but it's going to be Triple H's last.
Yeah, it is crazy. And
for the people who got to see that Mania, man, like that's fucking, they're lucky. I would argue that was actually probably the last of the star-studded Manias. If Undertaker had worked that Mania, it would have been Taker, Angle, Hunter, Lesnar, and Batista. That actually would have been a decently star-studded Mania.
And for the near future, it would be the last one-day WrestleMania.
Yes. What do you mean for the near future? You think
Well,
they're gonna go back to one night?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't. It makes no sense. For the fan, it makes, and for the business, on a money standpoint, it makes more sense to do 2 nights, because then you have 2 legitimately completely different cards with 2 different main events.
I do
And
like the 2-night idea. I don't know if they're ever going to go back to one night, but
it's just so much easier on the fan too, because would you rather have a weekend devoted to 2 3.5 to 4 hour wrestling shows with 2 completely different cards? Or do you want to sit through a 9 to 10 hour, including the kickoff, day long WrestleMania? It's like, I don't care what you book as the main event. You're going to be asleep in your seat if it's a 10-hour day. So I think it's easier on the fan, and I think it's easier on Vince's pockets to make it a 2-night stay. And I'm surprised he didn't do it earlier, because all he cares about is money. So it's like, why wouldn't he, like, when they were first doing like WrestleMania 2, he didn't get the idea right. He was thinking, how about instead of doing 2 separate shows in 2 separate places, let's just do 1 show in 3 separate places. And it's just like
genius.
That was crazy. Like, but how does, like, it's so weird too, because like for the people that actually bought a ticket to be a part of that live, you only get to be a part of an hour of it live, and then the other 2 hours you're just sitting in a darkened arena watching it on a jumbotron.
Yeah, not the best executed plan.
It was weird, but it would make you think, if Vince was throwing around ideas as early as Mania 2 of how to diversify the Mania itself. You would think it would have dawned on him to turn it into a whole weekend thing and do a 2-night stay a little bit earlier than the late 30s of WrestleMania. But I mean, better late than never, I suppose.
I was just gonna say, as they always say, better late than never.
Better late than never, absolutely. So what did you since we rewatched this match, what did you think, with it, being refreshed in your mind? Because I can't even remember the last time I sat down and watched the match all the way through, beginning to end.
Same here. It's funny you said, in the last 3 minutes of it, you can make the argument that it's better than 25. I don't know where I stand, which one I like better.
Just on that part of the story, yeah.
I love 25. I love 26. I don't know which one I would rank number 1. I always fall into the distinction as whichever match I saw recently, that becomes my favorite between the 2. And 26, again, rewatching it back for the first time, and I can't remember the last time I saw it. They took 25 and they took it to a new level with Undertaker selling the emotional standpoint from both Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, because Shawn Michaels is fighting so passionately to keep his career. Undertaker's fighting so passionately to keep his streak. But there's also, like we saw in the last moments there, of Undertaker's respect for Shawn Michaels. It's almost like how Michaels fought, how he felt about Ric Flair. It's almost like there's like a little something in there of Undertaker's like, I really don't want to retire him, but I have to retire him.
No, see, I don't know if I...
Because he's such a big story to Undertaker's character. Again, and
I understand where you're coming from, and you make a really good point, because I've never seen the similarities there. Because I've always talked about how 25 and 26 and 27 and 28 are all similar to each other. I haven't really taken into consideration that Shawn was in that exact same position as Taker, but it's different because Rick didn't have to screw Shawn out of his world championship to get that match. You know what I mean? Like, Rick asked Shawn for the match, and Shawn humbly obliged, and then called him Old Yeller. And then Ric Flair slapped him and went, "What are you gonna do about that?" And so it's just, there was so much love and respect between them, and they were built up as, they're not only great friends, but Shawn was almost like, studying under the wing of Ric Flair his whole career, and, almost like a student of the game, for lack of a better term. And so when you have this dynamic of Shawn being a student of Ric Flair's as well as his close friend, and the fact that Rick didn't have to cost Shawn anything of his to get the match, there's no need for revenge there. You know what I mean? And so him being in that position, and it's his friend, and he doesn't want to do it, You know what I mean? Like there you see the emotion and the crying and everything, and that still is so hard for me to watch. It's so emotional. But with 26, I don't know that you could say that Taker didn't want to do it but had to, because he was screwed out of his world championship just to even have the match happen. And he's not, you would more so consider him and Taker rivals, you know, not friends really ever in any sort of sense.
But you get
and Taker's not really
feeling of Undertaker being, you know, just telling Michaels to stay down, not wanting to finish him off. Just stay down, let me pin you. Not, you know, just Michaels forcing the Undertaker to use his tombstone on him by forcibly making an action of slapping him. Undertaker just telling him, just stay down. You know, don't force me to bring out a tombstone on you. Just stay down. But Michaels then, you know, doing the throat cut, slapping him, forcing him to bring out Undertaker's best to put out Shawn Michaels. That's the story right there, you know. And then we build on that again next time when we come back for Triple H. You get the Triple H aspect, the best friend aspect, trying to take up the mantle of what Shawn couldn't do. And we get a whole new story, whole new rules with Triple H. You get the no holds barred. You get you get a new viciousness out of Triple H against Undertaker. And like you said, when we were watching it earlier, you know, roles become reversed in a sort of way. Triple H becomes the dominant force like the Undertaker is, and Undertaker falls into the Shawn Michaels role in 27. So that'll be
it's what's crazy too is that I wouldn't even say Triple H, you know, became a different version of himself. He like reincarnated, he resurrected, you know, the old cerebral assassin, the old game. Because he was known for, you know, going well past what was needed to finish a match. Like there have been plenty of segments where he was turning heel and he would just absolutely destroy somebody, or even just the whole Shawn Michaels thing, the whole Shawn Michaels story. And even when he lost that match by the roll-up and then still came out on top by hitting him with the sledgehammer twice in the back, like, and then making Shawn look him in the eye as he did it. Like, just, he's
ruthless Triple H.
You took it right out of my mouth. I was just about to say, he has shown sheer levels of just ruthlessness I was just about to say when it's necessary, but when it's most not necessary.
Yeah.
He has shown his just downright savage side. You know, he puts on his glasses and his cowboy hat and oh yeah. I'm just kidding. Not that savage, different savage. But he brings out a whole, you know, savage side to him, and he's done it time and time again. And I think it was kind of cool to see that come back out, because when you think about how his career was, you know, for all of 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, he's just a, you know, straight to the T, you know, cookie cutter babyface that's just, you know, like top tier dude working in the WWE Championship story for like years, 07, 08, 09. Takes the WWE Championship with him to SmackDown when they do that whole switcheroo where the big gold is on Raw and then the spinner's on SmackDown. When he was feuding with Edge and all that stuff. And the whole time he was doing all of these matches and stories, he was always the babyface. And so, and he never really, can you stop biting my chain? This is our newest rescue, by the way. This is a name. I think we're still debating on the name, but it's pretty much determined at this point. This is Morty, or also Lord Mortimort.
That's adorable.
Lord Mortimort. And yeah, he's our newest rescue that we just got. And he refused to be ignored. I was literally ignoring him the whole podcast, and he finally was like, "Fuck this shit."
I saw him perched on the chair behind you, watching the pay-per-view as we were. He wanted to be.
Yeah, he's been trying to get my attention this whole time, and I was like, "Bro, I got work to do." And so he finally was just like, "Fuck this shit," and just jumped in my lap. He's like, "If you're not gonna come to me, I'll come to you." And so here he is. But took the thought right out of my mouth. So it was cool to see when Triple H kind of revert back to those heelish tactics, because like that was really the first time you saw it come back out, and because you had been starved of that for years, it really like laid in like, woo, like that's cold, like that's unnecessary. Like every chair shot to Taker's back, like when he yelled, "Stay down!" Bah, bah, bah. But I remember like after the seventh one, just yelling at my TV, "Fuck, stop!" Just like.
We don't want to give too much away for our next watch along, but
That's fair. That's fair. There's
wanna...
certainly another generation of fans that have come in
Yes.
between that time. So there's people that don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
that's fair. I will go ahead and bite my tongue until next time.
Which I find it difficult too as well, because you just want to keep talking about it. But
or I guess on my end, I just want to keep talking, because then you'll say, and while you finish up that irrelevant thought, why don't we hit play?
No, but that's a good hook for the next time, as we see the rebirth of the ruthless cerebral assassin, as Triple H tries to avenge the career of Shawn Michaels by challenging the streak for the second time, exactly 10 years later.
Very true.
At WrestleMania 27 in Atlanta, Georgia, where Undertaker hopes to extend the streak to 19-0, but Triple H tries to put it and bury it alive at 18-1.
And he was actually showing, I was just thinking about that, he was showing hints of, reverting back to that heelish character, because when he gets in the ring, before the gong rings, and before you hear, "There ain't no grave." I was kidding. I know that they re-edited it.
Unfortunately, not here in the
You will not hear it if you're watching it on the cop, but if you go on YouTube, you can watch the original airing and you can hear the Johnny Cash song. I don't understand why they did that. Why did they change his theme?
I can't wait to talk about that next time.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. But before we end, because I'll forget otherwise, I just want you to know this, and I want you to go back and find this on YouTube so that we can talk about it on the next episode. Do you remember when NBC did an hour-long premiere of WrestleMania 27?
Yes.
It was 1 hour of the show, just all the highlights.
Yeah.
So they do and before I get to that, I just want to finish my point of what I was making of Triple H's heelish tactics. When he gets in the ring, he's completely stone cold faced, and he looks in the camera and he just goes, it's like he was not, like that cookie cutter, game coming out to make fun of Vince McMahon, character that he was in all of 2007, 2008. He was there with a mission, and he was there with the same intensity that he had going up against Shawn in SummerSlam. Like, he came in with that, like, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do, and you could just see it in his face.
More vicious than we saw 10 years prior, him fighting the Undertaker in the same setting. He's got a different mission now, because 10 years prior, you weren't fighting the Undertaker for the streak. 10 years later, you are.
And on top of that, 10 years prior, you didn't have a stipulation. 10 years prior, it was just a standard match. I don't understand why the referee followed them out to the ringside area, though. I don't know why the referee just didn't do a count out. I don't understand.
He was knocked out in 17.
Was he knocked out that whole time?
Yeah, that's the funniest part about that match.
I thought the ref followed them all the way out to that thing. And that Astrodome was a literal circle all the way around. So they
you took like a 15-minute nap. It was hilarious.
Dude, but like how far they were from the ring. Like when you look back at WrestleMania 35, when Miz and Shane did their little scurry to the same spot, it took half the time to get there because they didn't have to travel as far because they were in an oval stadium in MetLife Stadium. Astrodome's a fucking circle, like a circle. And so how far they had to go out to get to the hard cams and to get to that scaffold, it's so funny. Like even still when I watch it and you can see the ring just looks like a fucking ant in the background while they're on the scaffold. It's like, why are you even out there, motherfuckers? But anyway, so I want you to go YouTube this so we can talk about it on the next episode.
Will do.
They don't, or if anything, I'll find it on YouTube because I'm probably going to listen to it when I get off here because it's music. I'm going to listen to it when I take a hit of my weed. I always like to listen to good music when I smoke before I go to bed. And so I'm probably gonna try to look this up so I can listen to it again. Because by telling you about this, I'm reminding myself of it. Because I remember hearing it live on the broadcast when it happened, and I was like, "This is really cool." Instead of doing the Johnny Cash shit, they play Katy Perry's "E.T." Do you know that song?
No.
You're so hypnotizing.
Oh, yes. Yes. Now I do.
From a whole other world. That song. They play that song and they retune the gong to the key of the song. And on the downbeat of the song, the gong rings.
Oh,
it is so fucking sick. They retune the gong because the gong is normally in E. They retune it to C sharp to fit ET, which is in F minor.
Amazing.
And it's like, it's so cool, dude. Like, it's
well, I will look that up on YouTube. I have to refresh my memory.
Dude, you will. And then when we talk on here, I'll be like, dude, how sick is that remix? And I would have preferred, if we're gonna fucking change Taker's song for a random ass WrestleMania, I would have taken that ET remix over the Johnny Cash shit, straight up. It sounded that good.
Yeah. I can't wait to talk about the Johnny Cash, this this ET whatever you called it. I can't wait for it. I can't wait to go back and
that's what the song's called. It's just called ET, I think. It's just called Extraterrestrial.
Oh, cool. I will take a look at it. I vividly remember that now after you saying that, I remember that of him coming down with that gong. Yeah.
Because that's how they premiered it on the NBC taping. So the only way you can see it now is on clips that are on YouTube of anybody who reposted it. And I think there's only like 1 or 2 clips that exist on YouTube of like just that 2-minute entrance. And that's the only way you can still see or hear the remix for that turn. So it's really cool. It's a good audio treat.
Yeah.
Certainly.
And for those listening, I will post it on my social media. So that
dude, I understand them fucking doing the Johnny Cash shit to just do the vignettes for 211 11 or 22111, whatever. Was it 221 or 21111?
221.
Okay, 22111. I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. When they were first playing those vignettes, and everybody thought it was about Sting, as I told you, in all those vignettes you were hearing in the last 10 seconds, there ain't no grave, can't hold my body now. And then it would show it would just in the flames just across the black 22111, and it would just dissipate. So I could see for the vignettes you using that song. But then to fucking change his theme for the whole lead up to Mania and then the Mania itself. Well, did they change it leading up to Mania or was it just that Mania? Because I know when he walks out that first time, when Triple H interrupts him, he comes out to the fanfare and the only time he ever had that like light tube Undertaker symbol above the ring waiting for him, that thing was badass. I don't know why they stopped doing that. But he came out to his fanfare then. But I struggle to remember in those last 2 or 3 weeks leading up to WrestleMania 27, did he still come out to the Oregon fanfare or did he come out to Johnny Cash? Because he did it at Mania 27, certainly.
That I will double check on. I will get back to you next week. I
will have to do my research as well. We'll go do our homework and then we'll come back and exchange notes.
Yes, come back and exchange notes. But as always, Eamon, I can't wait for our next one, as I always say here. You're a remarkable guest. I love doing this watch along series with you. And as I said on my newest episode of the Collecting Dead Man podcast, after we are finished with this 4-part WrestleMania story, we will move on to watching the WrestleMania matches of The Undertaker that you have attended live. So that is WrestleMania 29, WrestleMania 30, WrestleMania 32, 33, and 34. So we will get a good... and
37, but there's no Taker match there. I'm just saying I've been to 37 too.
Oh, okay. Yes, but there's no Undertaker match there. So we get...
I wish there would have been.
Oh, I know, me too.
That would have saved.
That would have saved WrestleMania. But we're gonna...
No, dude, I'm saying a half attendance WrestleMania in the pouring rain. The only thing that could have saved that whole fucking show was Undertaker.
Oh yeah. But we will get a good mixture of your memories, a good mixture of matches. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say about attending those WrestleManias live. We get to hear all about your WrestleMania 34 experience. Get to hear more about that sign that you showed off to us last week.
We were able to make that happen. How I almost drunkenly missed that WrestleMania. Yeah, we can talk about that too.
Oh my gosh, so much.
I remember walking down Bourbon Street to the venue and thinking to myself, there is not nearly as many people heading to the arena right now as there were at WrestleMania 30 when we were all walking there. So I remember the walk to WrestleMania 30 was body on body. It was just a march. It felt like a fucking protest of just wrestling fans walking down the street together with beers in their hands, drinks in their hands, arm in arm, just charging to the stadium, and just literally just a pack, just charging to the stadium. And then I'm walking there for 2018, and I'm like the only dude on Bourbon Street. There's a guy like 30 feet away from me on a fucking plastic bucket, just trying to get some fucking spare change. And I'm like walking around going, where is everybody? Walk into WrestleMania, and I hear Charlotte's music playing to fucking find out, oh, this match just ended. And I'm like, I'm getting here now. So, and then I found out for people I showed up over an hour late. But I will leave it at that. I see you trying to shut me up.
No. I don't want you to give away too much before we get to WrestleMania 34. I want to hear
all about this. Was that I almost missed it. I didn't even talk about the show itself.
That's quite the hook to leave people on, that you almost missed WrestleMania 34. And look at all that you would have missed. You would have missed being a part of the Last Ride documentary, all the WWE fanfare that they put for The Undertaker since WrestleMania 34, you are included on. So I can't.
I'm so confused. I remember walking in, and the first thing I hear is Charlotte's music and a bunch of booing. And I'm like, is this how the show is starting? And I remember walking in and somebody screaming that Charlotte just beat Asuka and it was bullshit. And I'm like, was this the opening match? And somebody's like, did you just get here? And I said, yeah. And they just laughed in my face. And then that's when I realized, like, oh, this thing's been going on for a hot minute. Okay. And then, like, as I was walking to my seat, like, as I was getting to my chair, that was when the referee ran down the stage and then told Cena how they used it. So then I see Cena running up the ramp in his street clothes. And I remember saying, wait, Cena was sitting in the crowd? And then somebody said to me, dude, we all went over and took a picture with him because when we all walked in, he was just sitting there. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And they're like, yeah. I was like, so you're telling me I could have walked over and taken a fucking selfie with John Cena just because? And they're like, yeah. But no, dude, my drunk ass missed out on that. At least I was there and got to see and be a part of the documentary and was in the right place to have my sign shown.
Right
everything.
Place, right time.
Dude, I could have taken a selfie with John Cena. To this day, I still haven't met him, but I literally could have walked into WrestleMania when the doors were open, and I could have seen a street clothes Cena sitting in his chair, just chilling, and then I could have just ran over and taken the picture. Oh my goodness gracious. And I would have had him sign that poster too. And I would have had Taker sign it on top of it, and I would have had both of their signatures on it.
Oh my God.
My goodness gracious, man. What a missed opportunity. And like, I honestly just reminded myself of that when I was rehashing that story to you, that I could have taken a picture with Cena. I forget that every time I think about Mania 34.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just reminded myself of that now. So now I'm gonna go cry myself to sleep.
Oh well. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't mean for a wonderful watch along to end like this.
God damn it, man. No, I'm just kidding.
But I can't wait.
I'm always kidding.
I can't wait for not only the next two parts to this watch along, but what we have planned after. So I just want to thank you again. Thank you again for being a guest on here. Thank you again for being a part of this watch along and being so open to do the following watch alongs with me. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man. And of course, thanks for wanting me to be a part of this. I appreciate being a part of your program.
Of course.
And I'm just as excited as you are. Anytime somebody wants me to sit down and watch some Undertaker, you don't gotta fucking tell me twice.
Yes.
Let's do it. So I'm very much looking forward to the next round. And if I don't get to say it to you before it happens, I do certainly wish you and yours a very lovely holiday season.
You too. A very Merry Christmas, a very wonderful holiday season to you and your family as well.
And we'll march into a strong 2022, and then I'll hopefully be seeing you on the premises in Dallas if you're still planning on doing a live podcast.
Yes.
There's some serious attention to be gained there. You could show up with some stickers ready. You could show up with some business cards ready. You could walk around AT&T Stadium and handing out 100,000 cards worth to people. So go watch my podcast, fuckers. I'm telling you, dude, the 10% rule. The 10% rule. If you give out 1,000 business cards, and 10% of those people actually go and look up your profile, and 10% of those actually follow you, you're guaranteed 10 followers.
Yeah.
Guaranteed anywhere between 100 and 10,000.
If this comes to fruition, I was not going to show up empty-handed. That'd be stupid of me.
No, so definitely show up. But what I was thinking of doing next year is going in like such a ridiculously good cosplay that everybody and their mother stops me for a picture. And then when they do, I will not even give them a business card. I'll have one of those things ready that you set up on your phone where you just tap your phone onto the back of their phone and it just takes them to like a display page of all your socials.
Interesting.
And then I would tell them to tag me in the picture they just took with me on their socials. And that would be like my foot in the door, if you will.
Oh.
Because you got to think about like, in a way, that's like a way of self-promoting where it isn't self-promoting. Like you think about like people that promote themselves in the comments on WWE's posts. Most people look at those comments where they say, go follow my page, or, go look at this. And people just roll their eyes at that. And they're like, look at this self-promotion bullshit. People don't see it as self-promotion though, if they're looking at what they get out of it. Because what they are getting out of it is a picture with someone in this cool costume. They're not thinking in their mind, I'm going out of my way to support this guy. They're thinking to themselves, I'm going out of my way to get myself a picture with this guy who's doing this cool thing. They just want, they're serving themselves. And so by serving themselves, you're playing into that because you know what they want. And you serve into that, you show up in this ridiculously great cosplay. They flock like sheep over to you. They start taking pictures with you. You then, with your foot in the door, have a way to engage with them and give them your social information and then tell them when you post that picture, because hopefully they will, because they're probably thinking they're going to post that picture, especially if the cosplay was good enough. You then just tell them, hey, when you make that post, just tag me in it. And then, that definitely raises your chances of getting follows. And then you can even pretty much exclude the 10% rule. Because just the way this whole Instagram algorithm works is like they only show your posts to 10% of the accounts that actually follow you. And then if 20% of that 10%, so many percent, but if 20% of that 10% actually engage with it, then they'll show it to another 10% of your followers. And then if 20% of that engage with it, they'll show it to people outside of your following, and then it'll hit the explore page. And as long as that 20% margin is continuously met, it'll continue to share more and more, and that sharing will multiply. But the moment that 20% is not met, and it's now 19%, 18%, they completely stop promoting that post. That's why you'll see people like having a post that starts out not getting a lot of traction, and then all of a sudden it gets like 1,000 likes, and then the next day it has 10,000 likes, and then the day after that it has 100,000 likes, and then it stops, like completely stops. No more, like not even 10,000 more likes, just done. Because it'll just keep multiplying until that 20% bottom line is not met, and then it just drops your promotion and just moves on to the next thing. So it's, I think the ones who win in the podcast world especially are the ones who can advertise in a very creative way. So you and I should definitely whip out the yellow pads and get a couple pens and start thinking of some cool ways and creative ways that we can engage people into not only your podcast but into my socials and just all the projects that we're doing. Yeah,
I agree. And a perfect segue in there is, where can they follow you on your socials?
So they can follow, they can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Eamon Condon. They can follow me on Instagram at the handle EamonU22. That's just EAMONU22, which is also my handle on TikTok. You can also follow my, I'm going to have a kind of irrelevant to wrestling, but for anybody who's a music fan, you can follow my SoundCloud pretty soon. I'll have one of those up pretty soon.
Okay.
I'm also going to have, if you're interested in supporting me, I'm going to have a couple Etsy shops coming up pretty soon with some of my graphic designs. So that'll be fun. And I'm going to have a couple different Instagram pages that I'll be building just for the business side of things. So like if you're just trying to like DM me for like special requests or for designs or whatever, I have like a totally different profile that people can interact with me on just a business level for. So there's some cool stuff coming down the way that I'm very excited about.
Awesome.
So, yeah, those main four for sure: my YouTube, my Instagram, my TikTok, and the SoundCloud. Those are the main four for right now.
That's awesome, and I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the future. And people can follow me on Twitter at CollectUpDead, on Instagram at CollectingDeadMan, CollectingDeadMan on YouTube. Check out my Linktree page where you can find all my social media, my shops, everything else under the Collecting Dead Man umbrella. And as I say here each and every time as I sign off, thank you, Eamon, for another week. Thank you for being my guest here. for another wonderful watch along as we take this journey through Death Valley, through another stop to another wonderful Undertaker memory and match. As we keep rolling along here, same Taker time.
Keep rolling.
Same Taker time, same Taker channel next time. Keep on rolling, baby. So thank you again for joining me, and stay tuned for next time.
Keep rolling.